Hey everybody, what's going on? This is Sam from Historic Travels and welcome to another video. And as always, before we get started today, I'd just like to take a quick moment to welcome all my new subs and to thank everybody who's been leaving me comments and messages down below. Thank you all so much, I really appreciate it. And if you would like to take a couple of extra steps to help support the channel a little bit more, there's a merch store and a Patreon for this channel in the links below. Thank you all so much for all your support. Now, first of all guys, sorry I haven't had a video go up in about a week or so. I have been very busy at my new part-time job, and as I said earlier, I've been working full-time hours over the past week, and as I discovered, it is very hard to come home and be creative and make a video after working a full-time shift. But luckily, next week, I officially start my part-time hours, so videos should resume on this channel at the rate that they were before. So thank you all so much for all your patience. Oh, and in case you missed it, over on my sister's channel, she made a video showing my whole family building the Lego Titanic kit. It is incredibly cool, and I will include a link to her video in the description below. And do not worry, there will be a full video review of the Lego Titanic kit on this channel in the very near future. All right, everybody, well, hey, without any further ado, let's continue the story of the Titanic sister ship, the HMHS Britannic, and let's get into it. Also, after this video is over, if you need something else to watch, be sure you head over to the Part-Time Explorer YouTube channel. Tom Linsky, the head of the channel, made an incredible video working with the author of On a Sea of Glass, and he also worked with the lead creator of the YouTube channel Ocean Liner Designs to make an incredible video talking about Thomas Andrews and his role on the Titanic on the night of the sinking. A link to that video will be in the description below. When we last left the HMHS Britannic, the vessel was underway bound for the island of Lemnos, where the ship would arrive at the island, pick up more wounded soldiers, and then return them home to the UK. Now, as the vessel was completing this voyage, it had to make a quick stop at the city of Naples in order to restock on coal and other provisions. Although, while the vessel was at the city of Naples, a severe storm moved in, which prevented the Britannic from leaving the port for several days. And then, in the afternoon of November the 19th, 1916, a break in the weather finally occurred, and Captain Bartlett was able to get the Britannic out of Naples and back out to sea, heading for her original destination. Everything proceeds smoothly on board the Britannic for the next day and a half. That is, until the morning of November 21st, 1916, when the fate of the Britannic would be changed forever. Now, the island of Lemnos can be quite challenging for a ship to reach. This island is located in the Aegean Sea, so the route in order to reach this island can be quite challenging to any vessel trying to reach it. Basically, what happened was, the Britannic departed the city of Naples and then traveled south until the ship hit the Mediterranean Sea. Once it hit the Mediterranean, the Britannic began heading east, sailing towards the island of Lemnos. Once the ship was south of the country of Greece, the ship diverted north and headed into the Aegean Sea. Now, once in the Aegean Sea, the Britannic passed a series of islands, and then once it got past all of these islands, the ship could continue to head north until it reached the island of Lemnos. While the Britannic was sailing through the Aegean Sea, the Britannic would sail in between two small islands. You got the island of Kia on the right, and another island called Makroninos Island on the left. The Britannic was due to sail in between these two islands at roughly 8 a.m. on November 21st, 1916. And it's when the Britannic was sailing in between these two islands that something horrible happened to the Britannic. Now, another name for the water located in between these two islands is also known as the Kia Channel. And what the captain of the Britannic didn't realize is that about a month before the Britannic was due to sail into the Kia Channel, a German U-boat, more specifically U-boat U-73, sailed into the Kia Channel and laid 12 mines. Now, these mines weren't there to try to sink the Britannic. Their main target was a warship of some kind. But the thing about mines is they don't pick and choose their targets. They destroy whatever hits them. And around a month later, on November 21st, 1916, the Britannic sailed into the Kia Channel, unknowingly steaming straight towards one of these mines. And then, at 8:12 a.m. on the morning of November 21st, 1916, the Britannic sailed straight towards one of the mines laid by this U-boat, made contact with the mine, and the mine detonated. Now, the blast from the mine lifted the Britannic's hull out of the water a bit, and also flexed the hull and warped it slightly. Now, this warping and flexing of the Britannic's hull caused the cable strung between the Britannic's masts to snap. So basically what this meant was, this cable was how the Britannic picked up transmissions from other ships. So now, with the cable broken, the Britannic could still transmit messages. However, the ship could not receive any messages from any other vessels. Now, the reaction of the crew on board the Britannic following the mine detonation all had to do with where these crew were at the time that the ship hit the mine. If you were in the front part of the ship, the area that was closest to the mine detonation, well, you felt the explosion pretty clearly and you knew something serious had just happened. But if you were in the aft end section of the ship, the area furthest away from where the Britannic hit the mine, well, the explosion wasn't that strongly felt there. So honestly, some people on board the Britannic probably didn't even know that the ship had hit a mine. There was some testimony out there that some of the crew in the aft end section of the ship thought the Britannic had hit another vessel. They had no idea it was a mine detonation. Now, when the Britannic hit the mine, the nursing staff who were in the ship's first-class dining room reacted immediately and headed to their stations in order to safeguard the lives of themselves and everybody who was on board their ship. Now, the captain of the Britannic, Captain Bartlett, he was on the bridge at the time of the mine detonation. So right after the ship hit the mine, he ordered the watertight doors closed and he began taking steps to try to see the condition of his vessel and determine if the Britannic was in any real danger. But what he didn't know at the time was that the damage to Britannic was worse than he could have possibly imagined. Now, the Britannic struck the mine right around this area right here, in between the ship's third and fourth watertight compartment. And the force of the explosion put a massive hole in the Britannic's hull, allowing these two compartments to begin to rapidly flood with water. However, the force of the explosion also damaged the watertight bulkheads in between the third, second, and first compartment, allowing these compartments to also begin rapidly flooding with water. So basically, within the first few minutes of the ship hitting the mine, the first 4 compartments of the Britannic were lost. Now, the force of the explosion also damaged another part of the ship, more specifically the fireman's tunnel. And this was an area of the ship that allowed the firemen to access boiler room number 6. So because this area was damaged, water could now begin to flood boiler room number 6, which was the Britannic's 5th watertight compartment. Now, there was one more critical problem that happened to the Britannic because of the mine detonation. Where the Britannic's hull got warped a bit from the force of the explosion, this actually damaged or warped the track that the watertight door used in between boiler room 6 and 5. So because of this, this particular watertight door could not shut correctly, which allowed the water to flood boiler room number 6 and then continue on back into boiler room number 5, which was the 6th watertight compartment on the Britannic to flood. So at this point, the Britannic has reached its flooding limit. If the Britannic remains motionless at this point, the Britannic can stay afloat with the first 6 watertight compartments flooded. If any more water gets inside the Britannic, then there is no way to save the ship. The Britannic would sink. Now, Captain Bartlett did more than just ordering the watertight doors shut on Britannic in the few minutes following the ship's encounter with the mine. His next order was to have all of the lifeboats on the Britannic readied for launch. However, he told the crew not to launch them yet. He also ordered to have the ship's Marconi wireless operator begin transmitting a distress call. The Marconi operator did this, and other ships did pick up the distress call. However, unknown to this Marconi operator and the captain of the Britannic, as stated earlier, the antenna cable that was strung between the Britannic's masts snapped due to the hull of the Britannic flexing from the explosion. So even though other ships were picking up the Britannic's distress call and they were beginning to head towards the Britannic, everybody on board the Britannic itself had no idea if help was coming. Now, the first 10 to 15 minutes on board the Britannic following the mine detonation were definitely the most critical for Captain Bartlett and his crew, because it was during this time period that they would have been working to try to figure out if the Britannic could remain afloat or not. Now, during this time period, he would have been in constant communication with his crew that were doing inspections all over the ship to try to determine if the Britannic could remain afloat. Now, within the first 5 to 10 minutes, he would have also become aware that the first 6 compartments on the Britannic were lost, and there was nothing that could be done for those. And even with this amount of damage, Captain Bartlett would be aware that the Britannic might be able to remain afloat, although he knew it would be a very close call. But he was also concerned about the Britannic's rate of sinking, because with 6 watertight compartments breached, the Britannic wouldn't sink, but the bow of the Britannic would still begin to dip low into the water. In fact, the bow of the Britannic would dip so low in the water that after roughly 10 minutes of flooding, the Britannic's bow was in the general area that the Titanic's bow was 1 hour after the ship hit the iceberg. So, as you can see, the Britannic is sinking very fast. However, what Captain Bartlett didn't know is that roughly 15 minutes after the Britannic hit the mine, one final event would occur that would ultimately doom the Britannic. What Captain Bartlett didn't realize is that at some point before the Britannic hit the mine, some of the hospital staff on board the Britannic had went to the bow section of the ship and opened up a good number of the Britannic's porthole windows to allow fresh air to begin to circulate into the interior sections of the Britannic. Now, once the Britannic hit the mine and the ship began to sink, the flooding was contained to the ship's first 6 watertight compartments, so the vessel would not sink with this amount of damage. Although, as the water level in these compartments continued to increase and the bow of the Britannic was pulled down deeper into the water, eventually the E-deck porthole windows began to dip beneath the surface around 15 minutes after the ship hit the mine. If these windows were shut, it wouldn't have been a big deal. However, because these windows were opened, it allowed the water a new means to enter the ship, and it allowed the water to flood even deeper into the vessel. Not long after the E-deck porthole windows went underwater, flooding was reported in the Britannic's 7th watertight compartment. So at this point, the Britannic had passed its flooding limit and would eventually sink. Alright everybody, well hey, I hate to do this, but I think this is a good place to pause the Britannic timeline series for now. I really wanted to make the entire sinking of the Britannic into one episode, but due to time constraints and due to the fact that I'm trying to make this video or this series as detailed as I can into the story of the Britannic, I'm going to have to separate the Britannic sinking series into 2 episodes. So the next episode will conclude the Britannic timeline series, and the next episode will be about the sinking of the Britannic, or I should say the evacuation of the Britannic, everything following what we talked about in this video. All right, everybody, well, hey, thank you all so much for tuning in. Thank you all so much for watching, and keep doing what you're doing. You all are awesome. All right, everybody, well, hey, you all stay safe out there, and I'll see you in the next one. Have a good day, everybody. Special thanks to our Captain level Patreon supporters, Olivia Julius, Greg Gallick, and Callum Whaley. Thank you all so much for all the support.